we are back in Atherton, one of our personal favorite projects. We're actually getting ready to start the exterior as well. We're working on the permits for the pool and the hardscaping. Landscaping architect is working on those details right now. I'm very excited about it. It's over 1 acre of beautiful land, and that's going to be super epic as soon as we start construction on the exterior. As you guys can see, the interior is actually, I would say, 60-70% done at this stage, definitely about 50%. So we started working on the second story addition, which is basically a 1,000 square foot addition, which probably it's one of its kind in Silicon Valley. So usually you don't see those kind of closets, only in very modern type of homes in Florida and Los Angeles. Funny story about this property, there is an agent, a real estate agent that lives literally across the street. She was selling the property across the street from the other side, and when we talked to her, she told me, "Oh, you are Moses, you're remodeling the property in front of me, right?" So I told her yes. So she told me like the property doesn't really have a good closet, right? She kind of like left at the fact that it's such a massive land and they don't have a proper closet. So I told her you should wait for us to finish. It's going to be amazing, right? We're going to show it. We're going to give you a sneak peek. Framing, it's in the works right now. The trusses was ordered a few weeks ago, so we basically finished the trusses, which after framing is done, we can actually close the roof, which was amazing because we had like a lot of kind of hold off between the rain and the weather and so forth. But right now we kind of reached to a stage. God bless, the sun is out. It's a beautiful day. I think it's going to be a very hot summer and we're going to have beautiful projects for you guys. Let's check it out. I'm very excited to see this one. This basically, the kitchen kind of starts like around that section, and that's where the closet starts, like around that point, coming from the master bedroom and the master bathroom, going all the way to the closet. So you have, again, at over 1,000 square feet of just beautiful space. We actually have a meeting with our cabinet maker to review the space tomorrow. We're gonna basically already order the finishes. I mean, it's just gonna be gorgeous when it's done. So I'm very excited to show it to you afterwards, but let's go inside and kind of check it out. When we did the first demolition, the previous owner had heated floors, which kind of almost like messed up the plywood underneath the subfloor, right? So we kind of standing on what we call plywoods, right? Just pure plywood, which we actually replace to make the place seamless and much more solid, right? So if you can see, when you go in, it's kind of transition nicely between the rooms, and before we didn't really have a good transition. So we actually fixed it up. We replaced all the plywood. The owner was very happy about it. It's very solid. Those kind of some of the details that sometimes, if you're not an experienced construction expert, you might not realize. And sometimes, if those things, for example, if the builder doesn't care about those things, God forbid, somebody can actually install the finished product, which is the flooring, on top of the, damaged plywood, right? Which is basically doesn't give you a good protection, right? So if you can imagine, when we install those finished product, when the actual floors that the client purchased, the owner purchased, then you want to make sure there is a good protection. And in the end of the day, that's why I always tell the client, those type of things, it seems to be like minor details, but in the 5 to 10 to 20 year range, those become big details because those things kind of make everything last longer. So when we install the floors, it seems like, oh, we're just talking about floors, but it's not just about the floors, right? It's anything that we install behind the walls. And that's why I always tell people, like, sometimes, people call me, they just purchased a property that was remodeled, for example, right? And maybe the previous owner, or maybe it's somebody that flipped that property and they purchase it and they have some issues. They have leaks, or they have moisture, they have all kind of issues. And sometimes we do an explanatory demolition in the space to review behind the walls what's causing the issue, right? And then we find out that certain things was not upgraded before they closed the wall, right? Before they closed in the wall. So it's not just about like, getting things done, right? When it looks, sort of speaking, pretty when it's done. It's very important to focus on the condition. That's why we take our time to perfect the what we call the behind the walls, right? Which is sometimes more important than the finishes, because again, I understand, listen, I mean, as a client, as an owner, definitely the focus, that's why they're hiring Moses Hershko Development, right? And not just like anybody, because we are the one that's protecting the owner. We are the one that's actually on the site. I'm coming weekly, like once or twice a week sometimes, to the job site, depends on the progress. And I review all the spaces. And if I don't like something, we're gonna address it, we're gonna fix it. And that's kind of our, in the end of the day, when the client hire Moses Hershko Development, again, MHD Group, by the way, that's our design studio, right? So we have in-house design studio and we have our construction team. So together in collaboration, we can kind of deliver much better product and much better experience to our clients, right? We have the superintendent, we have the project manager, but in the end of the day, everybody watch each other, right? Somebody's watching me, I watch somebody else, everybody's kind of working together. The most important thing for us, it's the client interest, protecting the client interest, right? So I'm actually right now reviewing the site, I'm looking at the electrical. I don't care about the finishes at this stage. I care about the quality of, again, the plywood, the rough plumbing, rough electrical, all the details that's, the codes, the value engineering, all the stuff that goes in behind the walls to make sure the owner investment is being protected. Let's check the rest. So this is clean. This is what we call a clean site, right now, which I really like. Sometimes you go to job site, I always tell my guys, make sure job site is clean. I don't like to go and just see like a bunch of paperwork and bunch of stuff. So we got the planning, architectural planning nicely on the table. Everybody can watch it as needed. Again, the place is clean, is neat. It's super important, for the longevity of the people that's working day to day on the job site, to have a clean environment, which I love. You go in, it smells good, Those some of the things, yesterday we went to a meeting with a client and they just bought the property, a different client of ours, right? I'm coming to the house and I'm looking on the coating, right? Like the finishes on the walls. And even the owner didn't realize that, for example, they don't have smooth texture on the walls. And I'm like, do you care about those things? Do you want to make it smooth, right? So there is certain details in construction where people sometimes they think about the kitchen, they think about the bathrooms, but they don't think about the details that make everything special, right? And again, that's some of the things that I like to emphasize, because for me, it's like kind of bringing the whole experience. And sometimes the smallest detail, it's the most important one because it's kind of give you the entire picture. And again, curating the projects, making sure everything is perfect, it just kind of from certain different angles, it just makes everything perfect, right? So we're stepping into the kitchen space right now. So this place, it's kind of starting to kind of somehow look a little bit decent. We had like a few rough months, during the winter when we tried to kind of protect that area because we had like, a lot of kind of water dripping in. The roof was open for a while. Now it's very, very solid. Again, the transition of the plywood, make the space just looks very, very nice in transition. We have something special. Let me show you something. You see those black metal stripes? Those are special LED lighting that's gonna be very it's very modern. It's gonna modernize the space. I actually posted it when we post the project, the renderings on my Instagram page, so you guys can see it. And that just gives you that beautiful strip line, right? Like the LED line. So when you have that, the final product, when we put the drywall, you don't see those one, but you see like a nice LED stripe light, which makes everything super, super nice. Let's check out the exterior. So that's actually pretty cool. We have like all that framing, which is kind of a nice opening. So we're gonna have a nice sliding, which kind of look into the pool, give you kind of the entire picture of the property, which is super cool. So you can see kind of how wide it is and how beautiful. This space, as you remember previously, right? We were stepping out. So it was a different level of foundation, and we actually, level everything out. So now you don't feel like you live in like you're going out of the house, right? That's actually the family room. And, we leveled the floor. So we created a different landing. We had a lot of foundation work just because of the second story. So the guys are again working on the framing, but, it's really cool site, to have the transition kind of from the inside to the outside. And you're going to have a nice kind of glass panel, sliding door, which going to make it great. But again, all that stripe light, the black stripe light that goes all throughout, which is going to be perfect. So this is the master bedroom. I love the ceiling of it. That ceiling design was super cool actually. We actually kept the same original design. It's almost like kind of going in a nice angle, which is, you can see, which is cool. And we have everything open, so we can kind of really perfect the installation. But now this one, it needs an introduction by itself. Okay, so this is welcome to the best closet in the Bay Area. Okay, check it out. So look at it. We got the trusses in. Looks great. Absolutely incredible. So we had the trusses installation. The guys are working on the framing. Cannot wait to see this thing done. I mean, it's going to be incredible. So tomorrow we're going to meet with the vendor for the cabinet maker. We're going to look at the space, take some measurements. Now that the trusses are installed, we can actually finalize the measurements. We're going to come back and look at that space when it's done. It's going to be crazy. So we are in the master bathroom. Actually, if you come to that side, you can actually see the master closet. So, you get a nice transition as we saw the ceiling. So over here, we kind of continue with the shape of the ceiling, which kind of give the bathroom a very unique style. Look at that huge vanity, double sink, You're gonna have a beautiful slab on top of it, but the size of the vanity, the style, the way it sits. See, that's what we call, that's kind of basically, it's floated vanity. So it sits on the wall and it's not sitting on the floor. So it just kind of give you a nice feature, nice element, and just finish the space beautiful. And you're gonna have everything kind of tiled up. I mean, the size of this is a proper size of a master bathroom, excuse me. So just the continuing of the master, into the bathroom, and then of course, I mean, the closet, it's just like those type of things increase the value of the property tremendously. So when you purchase those type of home, and most of the time we actually work on properties of 5,000 square feet and up for the most part. I mean, sometimes we have smaller properties, right? But most of our clients, they own properties 5,000 square foot and up, right? Sometimes, in those type of properties, some of those elements, some of those design features, it just increase the value, right? So you can buy a property like that in Atherton, for example, right? And I'm actually looking myself at a few properties right now. We have a few opportunities for investors coming up. So we're gonna have funds opportunities, right? For investors to invest with us, right? For development investments opportunity. So I'm actually looking at Atherton because Atherton, I believe it's one of the best places to invest right now in the entire world, actually, not just in the Bay Area or not just in the US. But theoretically or realistically, you can actually purchase a property or land for development for roughly 10 million and then build a property on it, right? But again, those details, if you buy a property right now, right, in Atherton or in pretty much anywhere in the Bay Area or anywhere, but particularly in the Bay Area, and you want to increase the value, even though you're going to live in the property, let's say for 5 to 10 years, or maybe you're going to sell it in the future and you're going to enjoy it for a few good years, a lot of the details, a lot of the kind of the elements can be upgraded and give you much more value, right? So like, for example, adding a closet in that size, it's a pretty sizable investment, but in the end of the day, in the next 5 years, this property is going to appreciate so much in value, and some of those things are going to make it increase the value. It's not just because of the land, it's because of the finishes, it's because of the closet, it's because of all those details that we put into the property. They just make it very unique. And I always say, when there is a unique property, there is always a buyer that's going to be willing to pay. And I'm not talking about this property because this one is not for sale, so don't get excited, okay? The owner is going to live in this property, but I'm talking in general, right? When you buy a property, always think about it as an investment for the next 10 to 15 years. And, for example, I had a conversation with a client yesterday, and they're actually considering a few projects, right? And they're thinking about certain different things. They want to do the bathrooms, they want to do the kitchen, they think about all kind of different projects. And at one point of the conversation, we talked about budget, right? They were thinking, oh, maybe we should do, the entire property, like the entire house remodel, right? And maybe, instead of emphasizing on the spaces that they really want to remodel, they're going to do everything, but they're going to put less budget on everything instead of more budget on a few spaces, right? So my advice is like, it's not about just getting what you want. You have to look at everything as an investment. So if we do in a bathroom, or if we do in a kitchen, or anything that you do, you want to put enough emphasis to make sure you're actually not decreasing from the value. Because sometimes, I talk to clients, or I talk to somebody that, let's say they did a remodel in the past and they want to remodel something now, but before they didn't do it in the right way. So sometimes they realize it after a few years and they want to redo it a few years later, that's not the perfect space to be, because it's kind of like wasting time and wasting money, right? So you want to get it done right on the first time, and you want to make sure whatever you do increase the value of the property. Even if you're going to live in the property in the next 20 years, you want to make sure you actually increase the value of it, okay? So again, all those details that we have in this space, it just give it much more value and much more, in the end of the day, the owner is going to enjoy those details, but it just kind of comes perfectly. Also, this space, the foyer, we call it kind of the foyer and the entrance. We are going to have a grand chandelier. I mean, this space is so nice because this is kind of a true, what I call mansion, entrance, right? So you get we're going to have actually a beautiful design railing. We're going to change that railing right now. This is just temporary for safety. And you're going to have a beautiful chandelier. The front door is going to be changed. And again, the entrance of the property, we actually have the renderings on the website. It's just a beautiful kind of entrance and kind of give a lot of character to the property, which I really like. Let's check the kids bathroom, that's our less bathroom over here. Again, we have the renderings. Those renderings, again, I always talk about the renderings, that it gives a lot of inspiration to the guys. So the guys that's working actually physically, they look at the photo and they look at this, the actual site. So it just gives you a lot of reference for what we install and keep that vision in their mind while they're working physically, right? So again, another another vanity in that space. Tiles on the floors are done. Tiles on the walls are done. Pretty much this thing is kind of ready to be finished. And now the next step is just to start installing the slab, and we're gonna have a beautiful finishes kind of installed, which is start already, which looks great. This is actually a kid's bathroom. It's not bad. Pretty amazing size actually for a child, right? And again, the size of the I'm in the shower right now. Look at the size of it, right? Which looks great. I believe we have a freestanding tub in this section. We had some changes, but I believe we have a freestanding tub, and we have a very nice open shower. Again, a shower head above the head, and additional shower head on the sides. You have 2 shower heads. This is like a really true sweet bedroom as well. So we get that kind of extra kind of features as well. And again, the home automation section, check out all those wires. Again, all those details for me, it's kind of exciting. And again, find ways always to hide as much as possible. So we put some of those, wiring kind of hidden. So you have, easy access, but again, it's not bothering the space a little bit, which is cool. So this property also have a lot of kind of attic space all around, which is kind of nice, but a lot of hiding spaces, so to speaking, right? Which you can kind of go all around the property, which is kind of interesting.